Hello guys, and welcome back to Joe's Ventures. And today we're taking a look at the Feathered Species pack. And you guys know how much I love talking about accurate animals and feathers and things like that. So this pack was pretty much specifically made just for me. I'm really excited to get stuck into it and tell you guys about these animals. Really interesting picks. So for this review, we're going to be starting off with the pterosaur of the group. We've got Jeholopterus in here, so let's have a little look. So this is Jeholopterus, really cute guy. Let's see if we can pause it and see if we can find one. I know there's one in here that has like the cool colors. Oh, here it is. So let him fly off and do his thing. Just make sure we can get him in a good light. There we are. So let's have a look at you. So I didn't grab the feeder by accident, but we'll have a look soon. So this is Jeholopterus, a real cutie. Now look at this little cutie. So Jeholopterus, these guys are a really cool, interesting type of pterosaur. They're from Yutyrannus. So they're a group of really small pterosaurs. If you're familiar with things like Yutyrannus and things like that from like Walking with Dinosaurs, the same kind of group where they have that very short face. It's believed their ecologies are very similar to like owls or nightjars, which is an example. Keep pressing the wrong keys, but here we are. Look at this cute little guy, little friend. So these guys have come from the middle to late Jurassic Deinocheirus beds of the Tianjin Formation in the Inner Mongolia of China. And they have been preserved with hair-like filaments and pycnofibers, which a lot of other pterosaurs have. So really shows how much they've been really paying attention. Oh, it's kind of so small, it's hard to get a good look. We'll have a look at you from the back, because we love those colors. I love the red going on with this guy. So this genus was named in 2002 by Wang Zilong, Zijing, and Zhou Zhongyi, I believe you say that. And it's only known from the single type specimen, or the type species, is known from, and its scientific name is Jeholopterus neochiensis, and which its name comes from its place it was found in Jehol in China, and is a Latinized Greek pteron is wing, so basically means the Jehol wing, and its name refers to the Nancheng country where it was found. So the holotype of this guy initially is a basically based on the holotype. It's a nearly complete specimen, as I mentioned, where it was found. The specimen was crushed and has got an counter slab, and parts of the specimen were thought to be preserved on one side, but it's so well preserved you can see the pycnofibers and the carbonized skin fibers within them, so it really shows that the wing, extent of the wing, and all the pycnofibers and things like that. And very similar to other Yutyrannus, these guys have a skull form typical to that of the group, being wider than that than is long, about 28 millimeters, with a very broad mouth, with small peg-like teeth that allow them to catch insects and small things like that. Though these Jeholopterus is one of the larger members of the group, it's quite large for an Yutyrannus, especially being as big it is, about a little under a meter long, or a meter wingspan. And it also has a short tail, which is a feature that is seen in other Yutyrannus, but unusual for rhamphorhynchid or basal pterosaurs that is typically have a long tail. So it's very likely that short tails in pterosaurs may have actually evolved independently. And there's also all presence of pycnofibers found all across the body and the short tail as well. And it seems that the tail is impossible, any information on the tail is impossible, given that being totally absent from the fossil. So quite robust wings, and the metacarpals are very short, and this shows that the wings were attached to the ankle as well. And their legs are also quite short and robust, with these quite well-developed claws. If you can get a good look in there, you can see there's quite well-developed claws. So that allowed them to climb on trees and things like that. And that allowed them, obviously, climb on trees and rocks and things like that, being able to capture bugs as well. So as well as that, these guys are Yutyrannus, so these guys are in their own little group, with relatives such as Yutyrannus, and then Bagagnathics, which is another Yutyrannus, I believe. So really cool relatives. And in terms of its diet, they're generally considered to be insectivores, so they'd be eating insects and other small animals like that. But it's also been hypothesized, because this guy's quite large for an Yutyrannus, maybe eating fish and things like that, especially where it's lived in the Jehol biota. It's pretty interesting there, but Yeah, could very well be eating fish. Probably most likely eating things, anything big enough and get his mouth around. So I'm thinking very much like nightjars and owls of today. So really, really cool. So because I forgot, we're gonna get the feeder out and we're gonna put out the insect feeder, which is so cool. Let's put it out for you. So let's see how these guys will eat it. Let's have a look at them flying around. Let's see if we can find a little friend. There we are. I really love this little reconstruction. This is probably my favorite skin. Let's see what we got here. This is, oh, it doesn't really say. Yukon River and Charlona. This is probably my favorite. So you can see how cute these little guys are. How adorable. You can see the wonderful colors there. I really like these speculative air tufts. That's so cool. And then we can also see the wonderful colors it's got going on there. And then a little bit of feathers there. It's probably going to come sit on the thing there, but can we get rid of the UI? Yeah, hide UI. Look at that. Look at this cute little guy. Little preening animation. Such a little cutie. I'm such a big fan of this little dude. See if we go and grab some food. Will they get food, or is he not going to do that? I probably will leave it there. I think anyone's going to grab food. These little cuties. You can see the insect feeder. This is new. It's only for the Jeholopterus, sadly. But it'd be cool to see other dinosaurs use this, but still cool regardless. See all these wonderful, cool little pterosaurs. And it's covered in pictofibers, which I always love. Really, really awesome. Definitely a big fan. So, we're going to be moving on. We're going to be moving on to the next one. We've got a little animal here. I know everyone will love it. We have got Sinosauropteryx over here. A little friend. So let that release and we'll take a look. So look at our luck. We got the perfect one there.
You might think that the Sinosauropteryx is the perfect size for a cute plushie to take home. But this dinosaur is a pretty mean hunter for something so small. Trust me, you really don't want this one snapping at your heels.
Definitely not. But look how cute this little guy is. I love this little guy. So Sinosauropteryx is a really, really cool animal. So its name means Chinese reptilian wing, even though it doesn't really have wings. These are compsognathid, so very, very close relatives to things such as compsognathids from the game. So this is the first dinosaur ever found with the evidence of feathers, and it was described in 1996. And as you can see, it's covered in this very simple coat of filamentous feathers, and there've actually been quite a lot of research into the colors of this guy. So this color is actually pretty accurate, or even the other one. We know that it was kind of a reddish color, and it had these bands along the tail, almost similar to like a ring-tailed lemur, or a coati, or a red panda. So really, really interesting. And these guys were quite a small theropod, actually quite notable for its short arms, and one of the smallest known ones as well. So an individual that we have here is the holotype specimen is only about 68 centimeters or 27 inches in length, though it is not an adult. The longest known specimen was just over a meter long, or about 3.5 feet long, and weighed a half a kilogram, with the subsequent paper even estimating it's probably just under a kilogram. So pretty interesting. So quite anatomically similar to Compsognathus, not too many difference there. But what really makes it interesting is its feathers. So the feathers, one of the first dinosaurs with feathers, it showed that the fossil has it pretty much like along the body and down the back here, and even ending in this long tail where they have the feathers preserved. So it was a lot of debate when it was first found. It was like, oh, this could be just like the outline of the body or some film or something, but it's pretty unambiguously now considered to be feathers. Looking at the microscopes and things like that, show that they had dark along the edges, and they were hollow like modern bird feathers, and potentially quite coarse compared to most mammal feathers. And it was actually much larger and thicker than the hairs of similar sized mammals, so quite a bit thicker, much more feather-like. And though these feathers have been too dense to isolate, they've been shown that they're quite stiff, and it shows that they are often seen in other fossils as well, such as other birds from the Jurassic, from the JL biota, so like Confucianus. But really, really cool. And what's also really cool is that we genuinely know the color of this guy. So this is actually probably pretty accurate. There's another color that we have in here without the pattern. It's pretty accurate. So that we know that we're from looking at the microscopes of these guys, and you can look at the melanosomes, which are small little like cells, and you can look at the different shapes of them that show the different colors. So we know that this little guy here was probably counter shaded, so it has a lighter underside and a darker upper side to help protect it. So it's kind of a sort of camouflage to destroy its silhouette. But also we know that it had this ring of feathers down the tail, very similar to, as I mentioned, like a red panda or a ringtail lemur. And they seem to take that into the design. As you can see, it's got quite a holding its tail high, like that. Really, really cool. And a lot of people have been looking into it as well. It seems they could have like a raccoon-like bandit mask as well. And the counter shading is more likely associated with an open habitat, which is likely at a range habitats as well. So it's very likely that these guys lived in open areas rather than forests and things like that. But yeah, really, really cool. So in terms of its relatives, most paleontologists do not consider it to be a bird, but it's actually a member of the Coelurosaurs, so compsognathid. So related to things such as Compsognathus, Spinocorax, though there's some people that have been looking into the taxonomy of these guys, and these guys could potentially be young of other species. So Spinosaurus could actually be a baby Carcharodontosaur or something. So it's really interesting, that taxonomy there, but these guys at the moment are considered related to Compsognathus in their own little group. So it shows how far feathers may go. And then you have animals like Calendrodromius and Psittacosaurus, which have filaments, which they think how far do feathers really go. It's really an interesting debate. It's very possible because of pterosaurs that also have pycnofibers that are very similar to feathers. It's possible that they could be basal to Ornithodyra, which is a group that includes birds and dinosaurs, because birds are dinosaurs, and pterosaurs. So that's the group that includes them both. So very likely could be them, which is also very interesting. And in terms of its diet, one of the specimens was actually found with a lizard in its gut, and it suggests that these guys were catching small animals like insects and lizards and things like that. And quite fast running, and makes sense since these guys were living in open habitats, they'd be catching fast running little things. And also there's a possible specimen with a mammal jaw in its gut that belongs to be to Xanabar and Zeengotherium, which shows that these guys were most likely eating mammals. And Zeengotherium actually is known to have a spur kind of like a modern platypus. So these guys were probably feeding on venomous animals, may have built up to resistance, things like that. So that's really cool. And the same specimen with the gut as well also have several small eggs preserved in it, so we know that it was a female. And there's 2 eggs that are preserved just above the pubic boot and the slab. It is unlikely that they were eaten by the animal because they're in the wrong part of the body, so it's very likely this was a pregnant mother about to lay her eggs. And each egg was about 36 millimeters to about 14 inches, 1.4 inches long, and about 26 millimeters on each wide. And the 2 developed eggs in the body suggest that, unlike most birds today, they had 2 viable oviducts, so they were able to lay 2 eggs at a time. Most birds only have 1, which allows them to fly. But yeah, really, really cool. And in terms of its paleoecology, this guy's from the Ixian Formation and it's part of the Jeholopterus. So it's a very interesting area. So it has lots of volcanic rocks and things like that, which allows such good preservation. Seem to be lots of gymnosperm forests and all sorts of vertebrates and mammals and plants and animals and dinosaurs and things like that. And it seemed to be a temperate climate as well, with the wet and dry seasons, with the yearly temperature averaging about 10 degrees Celsius, or about 50 degrees Fahrenheit, which is usually a temperate climate, with actually quite unusual cold weather for the Mesozoic era, and it's probably due to northern China's high latitude at the time. So yeah, another really interesting little thing about these guys. I really do love it. I love the color there, especially getting the accurate colors. So yeah, really, really cool. So we're going to let these guys walk, and we want to see that social animation, because that little social animation they have is really so cute. Let's see if we can spot it. They're going to do it? You're going to do it? Oh. He's going to do it. Let's watch it. I love this. Look at that. That is so cute. I love these little guys so much. And nice to see accurate dinosaurs as well. Like, this is pretty much accurate to what we know of Sinosauropteryx. So really, really cool. Let's watch it again. These guys are about to do it. Look at these little cuties. Such a big fan of these little guys. Nice to see these guys. I love Sinosauropteryx, and it's nice to have dinosaurs that we know the colors of. So another really nice one. Next up, we have got one of the big animals. This one I've covered a couple times in mod spotlights, but finally in the game officially, we have got Deinocheirus. Look at this beauty. Oh my gosh, I'm in love with these guys. Let's have a look at you. Since we all love Prehistoric Planet, this one pretty much looks like the one from Prehistoric Planet. That or the grey one, but we'll have a look at these wonderful guys. I love the colours though. We'll have a look. No, we'll have a look at you once you move out the way. So this is our wonderful Deinocheirus. Let's have a look at you. Look at you. You're so beautiful. So Deinocheirus is a genus of large ornithomimosaur that comes from the late Cretaceous, from about 70 million years ago. So this guy has a very interesting history. It was initially just a giant pair of arms. So that was discovered in the 1960s, about 1965, and was given the name Deinocheirus mischievus, which comes from the Greek word for horrible hand. And no further remains were found for nearly 50 years, and we had no idea what it looked like. Up until 2014, where two specimens were found, and they pretty much, we looked at them and like, this is actually so much more different than what we expected it. So it shows that sometimes reality can be stranger than fiction, which is so cool. So as I mentioned, this guy was found in 1965 in Mongolia, and was known from only the pair of arms. And additional specimens were found in 2013 and 14 and were described, and it showed it had so much weird looks to it. It was found with this really spoonbill-like head and this big hump, almost like a Spinosaurus. So it really showed how different it was than what we expected it to be. So in terms of its description, these guys are the largest ornithomimosaur known. According to its 2014 description, it measured about 11 meters long, so a little bit smaller than a T-Rex, and estimated about 6 tons. With other two specimens being smaller, but it's been estimated up to about 7 tons. The back estimate, the most recent, gives it 6.5 tons, and a hip height at 3.6 meters for Deinocheirus. So very comparable to large tyrannosaurs and many other large theropods. And Therizinosaurus is another great animal for comparison, which it lived with. And the only known skull, which belongs to the largest specimen, is just over a meter long, or about 3.36 feet. And is very much shaped like this really spoonbill-like. You can see, I would say this is one of the little inaccuracies of this one, is that the snout isn't wide enough. Very wide snout, which was used for eating on aquatic plants and fish, as we'll get into. So, very interesting, and also lots of keratin as well, and very round, flat beak. And would have had jugal bones very similar to that of Gallimimus. And the postcranial skeleton, it's got some of the longest forearms out of any dinosaur, comparable to that of like Therizinosaurus, very comparable, and with these big arms that would mostly be used for catching prey and also potentially attacking, well, not really attacking prey. These guys would be eating fish, maybe to help grab fish, but most likely to defend themselves from large predators as well. And another really cool thing about this guy is that they've got such a big hump on there. Very likely, very similar to Spinosaurus. We don't know exactly why it looked like that, but still gives it such an interesting look. And then we can also see that it's got a lot of air sacs in its bones. Their bones are highly pneumamatized, which means there's lots of air in them, very similar to sauropods and birds, that would allow them to get a lot bigger and make their skeletons a lot lighter, so they'd be able to get much bigger, which is very interesting. And in terms of classification, as I mentioned, it's a ornithomimid. It's actually quite a basal ornithomimid, and in its own group called the Deinocheiridae, which is related to animals such as Beauchelong and Gradulomimus, which is quite interesting. And in terms of its paleobiology, as we can see this wonderful guy here, in terms of its paleobiology, I think we'll actually just let them walk around and talk about it. So we'll see if we can get any cool animations and see them walk around, do their thing. So in terms of these guys as paleobiology, very similar. The hands are very similar to that of therizinosaurs, and they probably would have been using them for digging and gripping things, and also to defend themselves if necessary. And they may have been able to use it to protect themselves against Tarbosaurus and things like that. Also, very likely diurnal because the cycluric rings are quite small with its skull length. But also some studies on the brain that showed that these guys had quite large olfactory tracts, so quite good sense of smell, and a quite small brain, more comparable to that of like sauropods. But still really, really interesting regardless. In terms of its diet, it seems that these guys, and this is reflected in the game, which is really cool, is that these guys were most likely omnivores. So the distinct skull shape shows that they were more specialized, very much like a duck, most likely feeding on plants in the water and foraging in the water. And it's actually been, one specimen has more than 1,400 gastroliths in its stomach, so that helps a lot with birds and crocodilians to help digest their food. And along with that as well, there's been lots of fish bones and fish vertebrae and fish scales found in them. Oh, this is the social animation. Oh, that's cute. Oh, that is so cute. Oh my gosh. I love these guys so much. Oh, that was so adorable. Anyway, and that is why it's believed to be an omnivore. And they show that these guys may have had distinct modes of feeding, things like that. And even recently in 2022, it showed that these guys examined how these feeding mechanics varied quite a bit between different dinosaurs or non-bird coelurosaurs. These guys have a very different pattern compared to other ornithomimosaurs, so it shows that they have a very different way of feeding. So in terms of paleopathology as well, I'll actually move on to that soon, but these guys were initially envisioned as being big predatory animals like an allosaur with these gigantic arms, and they would have used to tear prey apart. So it sometimes shows that reality is sometimes much more weird and interesting about than fiction. So these guys were using them to hunt fish and things like that, rather than being these big predatory allosaurs, not alamosaurs, which is quite interesting. Are they going to do the social animation again? I don't. No. But yeah, still so cool. Love these guys. And one of the specimens actually has abnormal pits and grooves, and showed that these guys may have had damage to the ligaments as well, and some have bite marks from Tarbosaurus that it was living with. And just such a cool animal. Love these guys. And the first known Deinocheirus was found in a Nemect formation, and this formation has been dated back to about 70 million years ago during the late Cretaceous. And the Nemect formation is quite characteristic of being a wetland, so very similar to the Okavango Delta of today, so lots of wetlands and streams and mudflats and shallow lakes, which is quite interesting. And Deinocheirus would have lived in these wetlands, eating small animals and plants and things like that, and would have lived with many animals such as Therizinosaurus, Saurolophus, various large titanosaurs, also with some small pachycephalosaurs such as Prenocephaly, and Barus boulder is another hadrosaur it lived with. Nemectosaurus was a sauropod it lived with. Also, some large animals that would have lived with is Tarbosaurus, and Ankylosaurs as well, Tarkia. So basically, a lot of the things from prehistoric planet you would have seen with this guy. But yeah, really, really cool. So also some Alioramus lived with, and as well as some Velociraptors and Troodontids. Really, really interesting animal. Also, Gallimimus was a contemporary of this guy. So a very packed ecosystem. But I just have to say, I'm in love with this. I love the Deinocheirus so much. It's one of the dinosaurs I've wanted in since the beginning of Jurassic World, and like one of the best. So really, really cool. Love these guys so much. So this wonderful animal, as you can see, it's got these really interesting pattern to it. You can see it's almost like an anteater. I really love the contrast of that. I think it's got a really nice pattern. And even just without a pattern, where's that one that we don't have the pattern for? Even that one without a pattern just looks so nice. I love this one. Very much reminds me of Prehistoric Planet, and looks covered in feathers. I will say, though, I think that the head should be a little bit wider. But other than that, pretty good in terms of accuracy. Though I would say Deinocheirus is a pretty big animal. So there is a valid possibility that Deinocheirus may not have had feathers, just due to its size. There's a thing going around called the 3-ton rule, so generally an animal over 3 tons would have lost benefits or even would have overheated with having a full coat of feathers, especially in some of the habitats they're living in. So it is very possible these guys could have been secondarily featherless, even though their ancestors had feathers. There's a nice look at the idle animation, having a good scratch. Really, really cool. So yeah, this is like one of the animals I've wanted for a long time, up there with Therizinosaurus and stuff like that, just because it's so just distinct and different. So yeah, really, really awesome. Nice to see this guy finally make it to the game and covered in feathers. I love this feathered pack so much. I'm in love. But before we go have a look at our last animal, I'm going to close this. I think there's a bug with this one. The park is closed. I'm closing it. I don't want this park open because the guests always bring down the FPS. But look at these wonderful animals. I'm just going to gush the Deinocheirus for a little bit. Look at these guys. So yeah, very nice. Big fan. Sinosauropteryx is also really nice too. Where are they? Let's see where they're gone. Oh, here they are. So yeah, look at these little cuties. Really big fan of these little guys. So yeah, really awesome. And this, if you guys want to see Best in Slots video where he goes through the other animations, things like that, very interesting animation, especially with the Deinocheirus, where it basically just like bear hugs and drags a large carnivore to the ground and then kicks its head and it dies. Such an interesting animation, all very distinct. But enough gushing about the Deinocheirus. We've got our last animal for today. We have got Yutyrannus. So Yutyrannus is one I've also been wanting for a while, covered in feathers. Such a cool animal. Let's take a little look. So here he is, the wonderful Yutyrannus. Let's see if we can get one without phasing into the other. There we are. So this is... Oh, we'll let it move a little bit. There we are. So this is our wonderful Yutyrannus. Well, not really the best light, but we'll have a look at you because you're having the best light. But yeah, wonderful Yutyrannus. So these guys, Yutyrannus, which means feathered tyrant, was a perfect addition for this pack. It's one that everyone's been wanting for a while. So these guys are a proceratoid tyrannosaurid, so they're an early relative of T-Rex, related to things like Proceratosaurus and things like that. And is known from our single species, Yutyrannus huatai, which comes from the early Cretaceous of northeastern China and is found in the Liaoning beds and is currently the largest known dinosaur with definite evidence of feathers being preserved, which is so cool. Oh, it's going to do a social animation. Let's have a little look at that. So, Yutyrannus was first described in... Oh, let's have a look from this angle. What are you doing there? Silly man. But anyway, let's keep talking about him. So it was first described in 2012 by Jizing et al. Its name in Chinese was derived from Mandarin Chinese for yu, which is feather, and tyrannos in Greek, which is the feathered tyrant. And is a classification of a feathered member of Tyrannosauria, which is so cool. Yutyrannus, is known from 3 nearly complete fossils with an adult, a subadult, and a juvenile, which were acquired from a fossil dealer who claimed all 3 had their provenance in a single quarry in Liaoning province of China, and is from the Yixian Formation, so from 125 million years ago during the Aptian, so the early Cretaceous, and was actually cut into the size of bat moths and bath mats and things like that. So yeah, really cool. Ooh, that was another better look at the animation. So cool. The holotype, which is the largest specimen, has a nearly complete skull with a slab and adult individual, with the other 2 paratypes being a little bit less complete, but still really nice. But you can see here, Yutyrannus is such a large predator, a large bipedal predator. The oldest and largest specimen, which is the holotype, is about 9 meters long, about 29 feet long, and estimated weight about 1.4 tons. But there has been some other estimates and things like that. With a skull, it's estimated about 905 millimeters, or about 95 centimeters, and about 35 inches. And weights have been estimated to be about 600 to 500 kilograms. So yeah, very big animal. And some of the really interesting traits, you can see that wonderful head there, had a head crest going on, really, really cool. And in terms of feathers, is actually also found with feathers, which is the name Yutyrannus. The feathers were actually quite long and quite filamentous, up to about 20 centimeters long. And because the quality of the preservation was low, they couldn't tell if they were simple or compound feathers. but we know that they covered most of the body, and even the feet, which is one thing that this one's got wrong. The feathers would extend right down to the feet, so that could be something for a paleo edit if you want to do that. And the smallest specimen shows about 20 centimeter long filaments on the neck and about 16 centimeter long filaments on the upper tail. And it's shown that at least some theropods or some early tyrannosaurids had stage 1 feathers, at least, and actually beat the largest animal for feathers from Biopaesaurus, which is the Therizinosaur. But it's very likely that maybe even T-Rex had feathers. It's still something that, or even lost them independently. So its ancestors had feathers, then it lost it. It's very much something that's still in the air, which is quite interesting. And based on the distribution of feathers, it's believed that these guys may have had these feathers covering the whole body to help regulate their body temperature, given that they lived in a cooler climate with an average temperature of about 10 degrees for the Ixian formation. Although if they were restricted to regions where they're found, they may have been at display structures as well, which is quite interesting. And in addition, the 2 adult specimens have distinct wavy crests on their snouts. You kind of see like that there. And with these high sagittal crests, as you can see there, which should have been potentially coloured for display, which is quite cool. And however, there's been scaly skin impressions from later Tyrannosaurs, so it's very possible that these ancestors of animals such as Gorgosaurus and Tarbosaurus may have had, even if adults have feathers, so they very likely lost them over time. But yeah, really, really cool. And it's even possible that Yutyrannus might not have true feathers and rather filamentous structures being the ancestral state, but it's really hard to tell with the amount of research. Very likely that they are feathers though, because it seems that feathers could be ancestral to like dinosaurs or Ornithodira, as I mentioned, so the group that includes pterosaurs and dinosaurs. But yeah, as I mentioned, the classification for this guy, we know that they are a tyrannosaurid, so they're the group Tyrannosauridae, Tyrannosauria, which is the group that includes Proceratosaurus, Proceratosaurus, and Guanlong and things like that. Sinosauropteryx is another example. So these guys were earlier relatives. They were kind of on their way to becoming tyrannosaurs. They're an early offshoot, and they have a lot of primitive traits of tyrannosaurs, like 3 fingers, and they have really not specialized feet for running. So yeah, very interesting group, an early relative of T-Rex with feathers. So in terms of its ontogeny, since we have the 3 specimens that are different ages, we know that they got longer legs. They had grew more robust as deeper as also their heads grew more robust as they grew up. So this very likely represents the adult. And in terms of feeding, we know that they have a simple hyoid, which implies a flat tongue that is like a crocodilian's tongue. And based on that, it's determined that these guys would have had fixed tongues, which is the exception. Birds. That all archosaurs would have had a fixed tongue, with the exception is birds, pterosaurs, and some ornithischians, which may have had tongues that were more movable. And in social behavior, it's believed that because the 3 specimens were found together, it's very possible that they could have been a pack-hunting animal, and there's also the presence of a sauropod found in the formation, in the quarry where they were found. So it's very likely these guys could have hunted sauropods and potentially died while doing it. In addition, other sauropod hunting theropods known as Waposaurus have been shown or believed to have pack hunting behavior. So pack hunting may have been something a lot more common in dinosaurs than we realize, when there's lots of evidence like Mapusaurus and Gorgosaurus and Daspletosaurus and potentially even Tyrannosaurus, which is quite interesting. And if Yutyrannus did prey on sauropods, it would be one of 2 predatory animals in the Ixian formation able to do so, and the other being an undescribed large theropod with it from a tooth that was embedded of the rib of a Dongbea titan, which very likely could have been Yutyrannus itself. But yeah, really, really cool. I'm just in love with this skin as well. I believe this is the Gambian River. I really like this brown color. See, it's so simple, but it looks still so nice. And you see all the other patterns as well. We'll have a look at another pattern, because why not? I do like this pattern as well. I think it looks rather nice with the red and the stripes there. It'd be nice to have like the red and the no stripes as well. That'd be quite cool. But I do like these stripes as well. Really, really nice. So in terms of the paleo environment it was found in, based on its local locality, because we don't know where it is, all age estimates showed that it was from the Ixian, so probably a bit earlier. Lived with animals such as Psittacosaurus, Dongbea titan, Sinosauropteryx, which is we already covered, and Cordyrex. So there's also fish present, and there would have been lots of volcanic eruptions and forest fires in that area because of the volcano, and very likely was what helped be able to preserve a lot of these fossils from that area so well. And the environment would have been littered with bodies in water and conifer forests as well. And it's actually been compared to the modern British Columbia. So the rainforests around there, so very wet, and would but have quite seasonal changes, such as and the average temperature, as I mentioned, would have been about 10 degrees. So quite cool compared to the most areas in the Mesozoic. But yeah, still really, really cool. Definitely a big fan of this guy. I love the Yutyrannus so much. See, this pack, I love this pack so much. It was literally just made for me. Yeah, all the wonderful feathered animals that I love talking about. And it gives me a good excuse to talk about feathers. So, yeah, I'm in love with this pack. Definitely, I would say this is my favorite pack to come out. All the dinosaurs done pretty well. In terms of accuracy, there's a couple minor things, like I mentioned with the, there should be more feathering on the feet of Yutyrannus. Could be some other minor things that could be changed. But other than that, it's pretty amazing. I'm definitely a big fan. Also, the Deinocheirus, could probably use a little bit of a wider snout, but that could be something fixed. And potentially a featherless skin could be quite cool for a Deinocheirus. But yeah, really, really awesome. I'm just in love with these guys. I love this pack so much. So yeah, if you guys want to see all the attack animations, I typically don't like doing that because they take a lot of setup. You go watch Best and Slots videos. He does a video going through each of the animals, all their animations, things like that. But I just want to have a look at these guys and look how wonderful they are. So yeah, I think this is a great place to end the video. So I really, really, really hope you guys have enjoyed this video. Hope you guys like and subscribe. Always remember to hit the little bell icon to get notified about anything. So yeah, if you guys enjoyed this video, hope you guys like and subscribe, and bye-bye.